Danube. I hope you're having a lovely week so far. So today it's Friday, so we have our story time on a Friday, and the book that I've chosen to read to you today is Mouse Trouble. Okay, I hope you enjoy it. A long time ago, there stood an old windmill, perched on the top of a hill. In its day, it had been a very fine windmill, but the miller who owned it now was a mean, bad-tempered man who would never spend money on repairs. There was one thing that made him especially grumpy: mouse trouble. There were hundreds of mice in the old mill, and they loved it there. They didn't mind the noise of the creaking machine grinding away. They had a marvellous time using the great millstone as a roundabout, balancing on turning beams and sliding down the grain chutes. They were so happy in the mill that often, on clear moonlight nights, when the sails had stopped turning and the machinery was still, they would form a circle around their leader, a white mouse who had escaped from a pet shop, and tell mouse jokes and sing songs in their high twittery voices. Although he never saw the mice, the grumpy miller knew they were there by their footprints and their nibbled snacks and the twittery singing in the dark. And so he bought a large tabby cat to help solve his problem. But the miller was so mean that he wouldn't give the cat anything to eat, and he used to kick it too. As a result, the cat moped around worrying because he wasn't fit enough to catch any of those frisky mice. The mice, though, felt rather sorry for the tabby and were unhappy to see him looking so down in the mouth. The white mouse called a meeting. "That cat needs more exercise," he said. "We must make it easier for him to chase us." "What good will that do?" asked a fat little piebald mouse. "It will make him fitter and happier, and it will provide us with some good games," said the white mouse. As this, they all twittered with delight. And so they began to make life more exciting for the cat. Sometimes they sat on the turning sails and made rude faces at him when they glided past his favourite seat at the window. Sometimes they covered him with flour dust that had settled on the ledges and the shelves. Sometimes the younger mice let the tabby see them and chase them, and they always pretended to be terrified of him, so that he'd have something to feel proud about. And sure enough, it all began to have an effect on the tabby. He started to take a pride in himself. One day, the white mouse sat watching him practice in front of the broken mirror in the outhouse. First, he practiced slinking up to a screwdriver as though it were a mouse. Then he practiced pouncing on it ferociously. And then he practiced being thanked by the grateful miller. The white mouse enjoyed this immensely and said aloud in his best quivery voice, "Oh, bless my soul, what a terrifying cat! I feel faint!" And with that, he scampered off. As the cat grew livelier, the mice became even happier. Every night while the cat slept soundly after his efforts to keep the mice in order, they all came out to celebrate. Swarms of the younger ones would scuttle down up and down the ladder staircases with squeaks of delight, while the old ones sat in the pockets of the workmen's aprons hanging on the wall and looked on contentedly. They thought how much nicer the world had become since their younger days. One day, when the white mouse and two of his friends were sitting on some sacks of corn at the top of the mill, nibbling newspapers into tiny pieces, they heard a terrible shouting below. They peered down the stairs and saw the angry miller holding the poor tabby by the scruff of its neck. Above the swish of the sails and the rumble of the machinery, they heard him shout, "You useless great thing! Since I bought you, there have been more mice than ever. Very well. I'm going to put you in a sack tonight, and I'll take you down to the river and throw you in." The mice were very, very upset and begged the White Mouse to do something. So, as soon as it was safe, he led a crowd of them into the outhouse where the miller had taken the cat. The wretched animal was already tied up in a sack, so the White Mouse climbed onto what he imagined was the cat's shoulder and whispered into what was probably the cat's ear. "My fellow mice," he whispered, "ask me to say that although you are our dreaded enemy, we don't want you to be drowned. If we help you to escape, will you promise to be friends with us afterwards?" The poor trembling bundle nodded its head. "Right," said the White Mouse, and he gave out instructions. One group led by the White Mouse crept into the hallway of the mill and quietly unhooked the miller's wife's fur cape from its peg. Carrying it above their heads, they scampered back to the outhouse. When they got there, another group had already nibbled through the string which was tied round the sack, and the cat was free and panting with relief. In no time, some of the mice stuffed their fur cape with straw, while some particularly strong ones dragged along a horseshoe so that they could make the sack heavier. Then they filled the sack and tied it up again. "That silly miller will never know the difference," said the White Mouse. That night, the miller took his sack down to the lane to the river, followed, although he didn't know it, by hundreds of inquisitive mice. They sat on the wall of the bridge and watched him fling the bundle into the water with a great splash. "That's the last we'll see of him," said the miller with a snort, and he set off home with the mice silently following him again. The miller decided that cats were no use, and he never bought another one. But he didn't know that the great tabby, still alive and much more contented than ever, was living with the mice on the very top floor of the mill, eating all the best tidbits they could find for him in the larder, and playing endless games of cat and mouse. Okay, the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. So it is Friday, so the only thing left to do is the Friday dance. So 3, 2, 1. I've got that Friday feeling. I've got that Friday feeling. I've got that Friday feeling. Okay, I hope you have a lovely weekend. Bye.